Speak on the show, 2021, episode 6. Today, politically speaking, the Black Panther Party, the enemy within, and the mind, body, and soul. It's Black History Month, y'all. Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm your boy R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. My apologies. Let's start off with this. My apologies about last week. We had some technical difficulties that we couldn't work through. So hopefully everything is running right. I've been working, trying to get this thing right so we can go to our normally scheduled program. So I appreciate everybody hanging in there. I got a lot of texts of, hey, what happened to the show this morning? You know, those type things. Technical difficulties we can't control. So we do what we do. We try our best to give you, the show that you're looking for. So we'll continue to do that. Good morning, Maurice Wigfall. Good morning, Maurice Wigfall. Appreciate the support, my brother. Good morning, my sister, April Whedon. Good morning. I appreciate the support. Thank y'all for hanging in there with a brother. Let's get these formalities out of the way because I got some things I want to touch on real quick. Social media, rwcoolins.com, the website. Go to the website. You can get all the links there. You can follow the links. We're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube this morning, as usual. Also, you can listen to, after the show, you can listen to the audio on either Spreaker.com or download on Apple iTunes. I think that's all I got right there. It is, I'm trying to get myself together. Yeah, that's it right there. That's it right there. Good morning, Lady Michelle. Appreciate the support. Good morning, Lady Michelle. Appreciate the support. Y'all can tell I'm a little excited about this show today because I got some information I want to pass on to you that some of you may know, some of you may not know, but we're going to get into this. And, today's going to be more of an educational type thing. And then I'm going to wrap it up with, my understanding of what things are and what we see, what it seems to be. Call in number 844-904-2665, 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. Say what you mean what you say. If you call in, hey, let's talk about it. Let's chop it up. Also, as you've seen, you can make comments through Facebook and through YouTube. If you want to comment on something that I'm talking about during the show, feel free, chime in. We'll talk about it. Let's do this. As I always say on the show, we come in as friends, we leave as friends. We may not agree, but we can always agree to disagree. That's the way it goes. That's the way we do here on the Speak on the Show. So I appreciate everybody with your support and everything like that. But let me just touch on something because everybody knows it's Black History Month. And during Black History Month, we got a lot of things that go on, where we're seeing who invented what and who did this and who did that and everything like that. But I'm a different type of bruh. I'm a different type of bruh when it comes to this. Because what I'm finding out about myself is I've become more knowledgeable, more educated, more well-rounded in the world, per se. I look for things that are controversial, however, controversial to the point of getting people to understand exactly what went on to clear up the controversy behind it, if that makes sense. Because so today we're going to be talking about the Black Panther Party. I got some things I want to talk about with that. Give you some in-depth information about that and give you some comparisons on what is going on through history of the United States of America when it comes to African Americans / Blacks who decide to organize for the benefit and the justice and the help of us for us as a people. But before we get into that, let's get into this politically speaking. Politically, I can't never get that word. Politically speaking. Everybody's seen, I'm pretty sure y'all watched it. Whatever. I dibbled and dabbled on it a little bit, but we had the second impeachment of former President Donald Trump. If you watched it, you should be in an uproar. You should be upset. You should be mad. But at the same time, you should have an understanding that this is status quo. Let me say that again. No matter how upset you are, no matter how mad you get about this and what's going on with this second impeachment, everything we've seen with the videos, the insurrection on the Capitol, all those things that we've seen that we know are true. The outcome of this second impeachment is status quo. And when I say status quo, I mean to the point that accountability is not, people are not held accountable that need to be held accountable depending on, and this is a statement, a quote from Paul Mooney that I will repeat because I didn't make it, but I'm going to use it. It's one of these things that we see in the United States of America. It happens over and over again, not just in the political part, but as a whole, because you've seen these people who were in the insurrection, how they've been able to kind of dictate what's going to happen to them, when they're going to go on vacations, while they're up for trial, all these different things that we've seen with our eyes. And Paul Mooney said it best, and I'm going to use it. They have the complexion for the protection. Let me say that one more time. They have the complexion for the protection. Now, people will get upset. People will get mad. I'm just using the phrase that I've heard that kind of feeds into what we've seen with this second impeachment and everything that's happened over the last 4 years. For me to be, and I'll say this during Black History Month, for me to be pro-Black does not make me anti-white. For me to be pro-Black does not make me anti-white. And what we need to understand is, because I have a pride in who I am and my people are and what we do and consistently how we carry ourselves and what we want as far as justice, because I'm doing these things as a pro-Black man does not make me an anti-white person. That's something that I think during Black History Month, we need to get across to people. And when we talk about Black History Month, there's also these discussions about why we get the shortest month of the year. And, it's only 28 days or 29 days. And, it falls in the same month as President's Day, where presidents back in history have had slaves, and all these different dichotomies of things you can look at and you can hear and people will put into play. But at the end of the day, if we didn't discriminate and try to erase the history of a people, then you wouldn't have to identify 1 month out of a year to celebrate Black history. Black history would be considered American history, and you would have it taught and being brought up every day, just like you do the history of the United States of America. It's just my little spiel. When I talk about the politically speaking, I'm going to get back to that. The insurrection on the Capitol, the things that went on with this impeachment, it's status quo. Let's just call it what it is. It's status quo. And at this point in my life, and probably in most of your lives, we sit back, we see these things, and these are the people that we vote into office whenever the elections come up. They have the interests of those who are going to put money in their pockets more than they do for the people that need the help. I've said it before, and I'll continue saying it. Our politicians that we vote into office, we need to do our due diligence and make sure we're doing what we got to do. The biggest thing that you've noticed about this what's going on this week with this second impeachment, with the insurrection January 6th, with all the things that's going on over the last 4 years per se, there's this stigma, this idea that certain people are above the law. And we see it, and when we call it out, we get called race baiters. We get called certain things because we want justice, because we want things done equally, because we see the injustice for just us. And that's where we're at. That's where we're trying to get to. And that's why we do what we do. It's nothing against anybody. It's nothing against anybody personally, unless you're showing your hand to me personally that these are the things that you do against the people because you don't agree with us as a people. Take it for what it's worth. That's where I'm at. This is Black History Month, and I'm going to celebrate it this month, next month, the month after. I celebrate Black history every day, and I celebrate it in the fact of Black history is who I am. Black history is who made me. Black history is me every time I look in the mirror. And I refuse to allow someone to dictate what I know about my history, what I know about my trials, what I know about my tribulations, and tell me what is real, what is not real, what I see, and what I know to be true, and to minimize it, not for what I'm speaking about, but for what they want to call race baiting, division. Racism has been around longer than me, and it'll be here long after me. It's just a simple fact. What up, Antonio Jackson? What's up, bro? I appreciate your support, man. Thanks for tuning in. Long time no hear, bro. Russell Jenkins, good morning. Good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. And Sharice Joseph, hey, good morning. Good morning, ma'am. I appreciate the support. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. So, as I mentioned, it's Black History Month, baby. So we're going to get into this. We're going to move into some things. Let's go ahead and this is going to be, like I said, some history, but I'm also going to interject some things because when you talk about history, you need to give the facts. Now, I'll give a little bit of my, own understanding, what I know to be true. But we're going to get into this because I think this is one thing that I know to be true. When we talk about the Black Panther Party, what we know is what we're told. What we know is the history about it. And what we know is the fact that it was an organization that was misunderstood. And it wasn't misunderstood because of what they were doing. It was misunderstood because of who was doing it. They had plans. They were looking for justice. They were standing up for our people, which we've seen many organizations. Currently, you got the Black Lives Matter movement, and then all the different things. You had the civil rights movement. You had all these different things that are going on. And it just seems, and we're going to get into this a little later, but it just seems that when we decide to make a movement, when we decide to do something to empower our people, to get progress with our people, to move us along as a people, the government, infiltrators, different people try to sabotage the message from the messenger. Colin Kaepernick comes to mind when we talk about this. Sorry about that, y'all. So here we go. Black Panther Party. Originally, the Black Panther Party, it was called the original Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. That's what it was brought up for. It was a Black power political organization. The organization was founded by college students Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton in October of listen to this date now, October of 1966. October of 1966 in Oakland, California. The purpose was to patrol African-American neighborhoods to protect residents from acts of police brutality. That was the initial charter. That's what they started off as. That's what they were doing. But now I'm gonna get into some points that I found that will go more in depth to what the Black Panther Party was all about, and then the resistance, per se, that they had to deal with. Black Panther's central guiding principle was an undying love for the people. They were for the people. They were about the people. They were about the people that looked like them, and they were about justice for all. After constantly seeing Black people suffer from torturous practices of police officers around the nation, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale helped to form the pioneering Black Liberation Group to help build community and confront corrupt systems of power. The Black Panthers monitored the behavior of the police in the Black communities. In 1966, police violence ran rampant in Los Angeles, and the need to protect Black men and women from state-sanctioned violence was crucial. Armed Black Panther members would show up during police arrests of Black men and women, stand at legal distance, and surveil their interactions. Basically, they were doing it, back in the day, being at a certain distance. Today, you just have to look at the fact of what we do now is people pull out their cameras, they start recording. Same concept, same functions, same reasons. It was to make sure there was no brutality. Both Black Panther members and officers would stand facing one another, armed with guns, an act that agreed with the open carry law in California at the time. Now, these open carry laws in California and around the United States didn't become an issue until African Americans, Blacks, decided that they were going to arm themselves. These are the things that you need to go back in your history and look. The open carry laws were they weren't stringent at all at one time until African Americans decided they were going to arm themselves. Then you started getting these things like, with the NRA and not standing up when black folks started buying guns. Then it was like, wait a minute, we might need to do something about this. The Black Panther Party was known for carrying their weapons to protect the community, Josh Boyd, appreciate your support, bro. Appreciate your support. These confrontations in many ways allowed the Panthers to protect their communities and police the police. That was one of the main things that was said in that conversation. The Black Panthers affirmed Black beauty, which helped to attract more members. The sight of Black men and women unapologetically sporting their afros, berets, and leather jackets had a special appeal to many Black Americans at the time. It reflected a new portrayal of self for Black people in the 1960s in a way that attracted many young Black kids to want to join the party. Some even wrote letters to Newton asking if they could join. The Panthers didn't invent the idea that Black is beautiful. One of the things that the Panthers did was prove that urban Black is beautiful. So what they did with the Black Panthers movement, they started attracting people. They started seeing what they were doing. And I'm going to get into something here, and I think I got a little later on. But one of the things that they mentioned was, if you ever seen pictures of Black Panthers, was the black leather jackets and the black berets. The black leather jackets and black berets was something that attracted people because it was a style. It was a style. And then, I was reading an article where they said, if you look at the pictures, none of them had on all the same type leather jacket. You had double-breasted, you had kind of suit leather jackets, you had regular leather jackets, but the berets were the things that stood out. So it was a movement. It was a power movement. And what they were basing their movement off of as well was the civil rights movement, where, Martin Luther King and them, as they marched, they wore the suits and they dressed to impress while they were marching, to show that they were, respectful. They weren't trying to cause anything. The flip side of that was with the Black Panthers. They wore the leather and the black leathers, all black really, and the black leather jackets and the black berets, to show the significance of that they were standing in unity and Black is beautiful. These are the things that get overlooked and overshadowed when we talk about the Black Panther movement, because it's looked at as something negative when everything they were about was positive. Just remember that. Positive. Taking care of the communities was a positive thing. Good morning, Brian Hoodie. Appreciate the support. So let's keep it rolling. The Black Panthers launched, this is one of the main things they did. The Black Panther Party launched a free breakfast for children program. Now listen to this. The party saw a serious need to nurture Black kids in disenfranchised communities. So they spent about 2 hours each morning cooking breakfast for children in poor neighborhoods before school. Studies came out, and this is why they did it. Studies came out saying that children who didn't have a good breakfast in the morning were less attentive in school and less inclined to do well and suffered from fatigue. Now, how often have we heard this? They say if, kids going to school hungry, they're not able to receive the lessons and things like this. The Black Panther Party was doing this back in the 60s for the community, serving breakfasts to the community to make sure the children in the community were not going to school hungry, and they were able to learn and become educated on a full stomach, rather than being in there and not being able to concentrate because they were hungry. See, this is something, and don't get me wrong, this breakfast program is something that they always harp on about the Black Panther Party, but it's the only thing they ever really talk about of what good they did in the community in most cases that you read or you hear people talk about. But the Black Panther Party was empowering the neighborhood. It says here, we simply took that information and a program was developed to serve breakfast to children. We were showing love for our people. The party served about 20,000 meals a week, and it became the party's most successful program of their 35 survival programs. So the food program was not the only program that the Black Panthers had created and that they were supporting and that they were using to uplift and take care of the community. The other 35, not going to get into that. I'm just skimming over it today, but there was 35 total programs. The free breakfast for the children was the one most successful program where they were feeding 20,000 meals a week. When's the last time you heard anything about that? Let's just be real. Morning, OT. Good morning, OT. Appreciate the support. What's up, my brother? So let's get into, let's talk about the women in the Black Panthers. Because I think that's an overlooked aspect of the Black Panthers. The black women in the Black Panthers. Black women spoke out, gained more recognition, and helped to empower the movement. The Black Panthers are often associated with its male members, but women also played a pivotal role in the party. By the early 1970s, most of the Panthers were women. Let me say that again. By the early 1970s, most of the Panthers were women. Women such as Kathleen Cleaver, Assata Shakur, Tupac's mom. No, that's Afeni. I'm sorry. Assata Shakur, Elaine Brown, and Angela Davis, who wasn't an official member, but she did many speaking engagements with the Black Panthers. And they took on leadership roles and had a huge influence on the direction of the party. And this is the quote: "The Black Panther Party certainly had a chauvinist tone, so we tried to change some of the clear gender roles so that women had guns and men cooked breakfast for children." Did we overcome it? Of course we didn't. As I like to say, we didn't get these brothers from revolutionary heaven. So that was a quote from one of the women there that says that as much as they tried to help the cause and be involved in the cause, there was still some chauvinistic things going on in there. So they tried to change roles a little bit. But as she said, you know, these brothers were out there and they were trying to defend. They did as much as they could, but they helped them along. They didn't get upset and not do what they needed to do just because the men were treating them. And they didn't say they were treating them bad, but they were treating them and giving them these tasks that they felt they should have guns as well. The Black Panther Party, baby. The Black Panther Party. It was a full-on involvement of the full community, not some in the community. Now that we got the good stuff out the way, now that we know, and I got a 10-point plan I'm going to read. Well, let me do the 10-point plan first. Let's get in this 10-point plan. Jeff K9, good morning, bro. Appreciate the support, man. Appreciate the support. Long time no here. Appreciate the support. So the Black Panthers, Huey Newton and Bobby Seals came up with a 10-point plan on what the Black Panthers were going to be about. This is what they did. This is kind of like their charter per se. Sharon Carroll, good morning, cuz. Love from Miami family. Appreciate the support, cuz. Appreciate the support. Still got people coming in. Jeff K9, always. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. The 10-point plan. This is what Bobby Seals and Huey Newton sat down, and this is the plan they came up with about the Black Panthers and what their charter per se was going to be about. Now, the verbiage in here, this is what they wrote. This is how they wrote back then, and this is how they said it. So let's get into this. Number one of the 10-point plan: we want freedom. We want the power to determine the destiny of our Black community. Number two, we want full employment for our people. That's what the brothers and sisters out on the block tell me. I say, what's happening? They say, I need a job. That's what's happening. I say, right on. So do I. So do I. Maybe we can work together. That was number two. They wanted full employment. And this verbiage I'm going back and forth with, that's how we talk back then. What's up, soul brother? Hey, brother, how you doing? I can't call it. All that came into play, and they wrote it exactly like this in the 10-point plan. No fluff, straight to the point. Number three, we want an end to the robbery by the white man of the Black community. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Not everybody ripping off the Black community is white. A lot of them are Black. We're not anti-white, we're anti-wrong. Let's do a little revision on number three and just say that we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of the Black community. Capitalists, can you put that in uppercase? I'm not sure how you spell it. I think it starts with an A, with an AC. Oh, starts with a C. So these are things that they wrote down in this 10-point plan when they were coming up with their plan. And like they mentioned in here, and this is where these things get left out, because even when they were coming up with their 10-point plan on how they were going to help the Black community and go against the injustices that are being done by whites, they made it a point to say that it's not against all white people. It didn't, and they even said in here that they're not anti-white, they're anti-wrong. So when we get in these discussions about our history and they make it seem like we were so radical about the things we hated, the Black Panther Party hated all white people. They did not say that. And it specifically says this in the 10-point plan. But people get their own mindset and their own understanding of what the Black Panther Party was about, and they ride it till the wheels fall off. Same case in point, the Black Lives Matter movement. Same exact thing. The things they were doing then to the Black Panther Party is the same thing they're doing now with the Black Lives Matter movement or any other organization that is about empowering Black people, African-American people, to be equal and get their justice. Number 4, we want housing. We want shelter, which is fit for human beings. I'm sorry. A lot of people running around town don't have a roof over their heads. The rain comes down, they get all wet up. It's a simple human need to have a roof over your head when the hard rain falls, and the hard rain is definitely going to fall, just like the Bob Dylan song says. See, they were very simplistic about what they wanted and the way they verbalized it. They wanted housing and fair housing for human beings where we could live, not the ghettos, not the projects, not the slums. They wanted fair and equal housing for their people. That's it. They're not asking for much, but in some people's eyes, it was too much. Number 5. And it says, any suggestions? You want education? What kind of education do you want? An education which what? Reveals the true nature of this descendant American society? That's what I thought you said. We want an education which teaches us our true history and our role in the present day American society. Put a semicolon in between the first part and the second part, because a lot of young people will be reading the 10 points. We don't want to be accused of bad punctuation. So they were concerned about how it was written and the way it was received. All these things come into play. But what jumps out at me with this education part is, what kind of education did they want? They wanted to be taught the history that told us and told America what part we played in building this country. Case in point, and I'm going to get into this a little bit next week, but we got this big controversy going on about the 1619 Project. I don't know if a lot of you heard about it, but the 1619 Project talks about when the first slaves landed on American soil, before it was the United States of America. And it goes into that. There's controversy about teaching it in school and everything, but we're going to get into that next week. But it goes along with what number 5 for the Black Panther Party's 10-point plan was as far as the education. We hear these arguments about what's being taught in schools. There's something that came up that said that schools have an option to opt out of what parts of Black history they teach in the schools. To this day, 2021. This was back in the 1960s. Number 6, I think we should deal with Vietnam, because that's going on, and just say straight up, we want all Black men to be exempt from military service. How can you have a Black man going over there to fight a yellow man for the white man who stole his land from the red man? Whew, that makes a nice rhyme, but no political sense whatsoever. This is what they wrote down. But let me repeat that one more time. How can you have a Black man going over there to fight a yellow man for the white man who stole the land from the red man? This is all in that dichotomy back in the day where we were looking for the justice. The Black Panther Party was identifying what they felt was unjust and the reasons behind it. If you go back, you listen to Muhammad Ali and why he objected to Vietnam, this is what he was saying. This is what he was saying about going over there. He said, he's not going over to fight no Viet Cong. Viet Cong ain't done nothing to me and all that kind of stuff, Though these are the things that we looked at and were being identified back during the Black Panther Party's time, not just with the Black Panther Party, but across the board as far as our community was concerned. Number 7, in the States, we've dealt with Vietnam. I think we should deal with Oakland and just say the murder of Black people. Stop the murder of Black people. I got vamped on by some pigs on my way over here this evening. That's right. I call them pigs because a pig is a rather low-lifed animal. Pig had the audacity to ask me what I'm doing with my gun. I said, Pig, what you doing with yours? Tonight's pig is tomorrow morning's bacon. That's why I could never be a Black Muslim. I love my bacon too much. It's part of the 10-point plan. Basically, what he's saying here, they dealt with Vietnam, but now they want them to deal with what's going on in the African American community, starting in Oakland. And I guess on the way to do this, he got confronted by a police officer. I won't call him a pig, but that's what he said. He got confronted by a police officer. And they had their back and forth, and basic thing, like I said before, he was carrying his gun, open carry. And the police officers asked him, why does he have a gun? He said, why do you got your gun? So these things that, with the Black Panther Party, and we talk about it seems very simplistic, and it seems funny as the way it's worded, but there was a meaning behind what they were doing. There was a meaning behind why they were doing it. And we need to make sure that we don't let society and those who don't have the best interest at hand take over what this was all about. Number 8, we want all Black men immediately released from federal, state, county, city jails, and penitentiary. That's right, because their constitutional rights have been violated. They have not been tried by a jury of their peers. Watch this now. They have not been tried by a jury of their peers, so let them go free. Let's elaborate for number 9. And just say that when Black people are brought to trial, listen to this very well. When Black people are brought to trial in this country, we want them tried in a court of law, not out on the street by some pig, but in a court of law by a jury of their peers as specified by the Constitution of the United States of America. It's a simple constitutional right to be tried by your peers. So this in number 9, they're talking about being tried in front of your peers and not being, being handled on the street by some pig. It's police brutality. Police brutality. That's what they're talking about, is police brutality, and we still see it today. Number 10, the last one. Let's do a summation. This will be the last one, 10 out of 10. Now, what do we want? We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing. And when I say bread, they ain't talking about no bread. They're talking about money. Land, bread, housing, education, clothing. I know you want a black leather jacket. Don't worry, we're going to get you one. This is when the people were just joining. Land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice. Always looking for justice. Went to death row looking for justice. And that's just what I found. Just us. Land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and we want some peace. Yeah, I got your peace. Peace. Rest in peace. That statement there tells me that the cause that they were going for, they were willing to die for. The cause that they were going for, they were willing to die for. In this 10-point plan, and it reads kind of like just regular, as they would say back in the day, job talk, how you talk to your buddies and all that kind of stuff that we see in the black exploitation movies and things like that. But the purpose of what they did with this 10-point plan was to establish what they were going to be about, how they were going to take care of the communities, what they were going to put up with, what they weren't going to put up with, and what they were forcing their agenda to be for people in the justice system to listen and do what's right by them. So they had this 10-point plan. I see it. I was able to find it, and I'm sure they had it back in the day. But let's get into where the problems arise for the Black Panther Party. Not within the party, but outside the party. The FBI doubled down as a direct threat against the Black Panthers, who they perceived to be a terrorist organization. The FBI doubled down as a direct threat against the Black Panthers, who they perceived to be a terrorist organization. Good morning, Melvin Jackson. Appreciate the support. After President Richard Nixon's election in 1968, Black Panther Party members said his administration gave Hoover, is that J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, even more of a sense to oppress without restriction. Shortly after Hoover publicly identified the Black Panther Party as the #1 threat against the United States, his statement, which he made during America's involvement in the Vietnam War, ignited immediate fury. Following his damning public statement of the party, the FBI took a more proactive approach to what they considered to be a terrorist organization. Black Panthers said that the FBI manipulated police, who raided homes and sparked shootouts that led to the arrest of countless Black men and women. The FBI and the President of the United States took it upon themselves to identify the Black Panther Party as a terrorist organization in this country because they didn't feel, or they didn't agree with what the Black Panther Party's 10-point plan was, whether they read it or not, or what they were trying to do within the community to uplift their people. So they identified them as a terrorist group. J. Edgar Hoover, FBI director at the time, he started this thing. The party had enemies in high places, which I just read, including former FBI director J. Edgar Hoover, who launched, it's called COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program. And it was started in 1965 and went for years and years and years, unknown when it quit. But it was covert and it was illegal. Former FBI director J. Edgar Hoover feared the rise of the Black Panther Party, so he created COINTELPRO, a secret operation to discredit Black nationalist groups. The counterintelligence program's purpose was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize Black nationalist activities. And this is what some of the Black Panthers said. We were followed every day. We were harassed. Our phones were tapped. Our families were harassed by the FBI. Hoover regularly, I can never get those words out, sent police officers letters encouraging them to come up with new ways to cripple the Black Panther Party. Though COINTELPRO, I can never get that out, didn't make the party their only targets. 245 out of 290 of their actions during this time were directed at the Black Panther Party. 245 out of 290 actions by this illegal covert organization were directed towards the Black Panther Party. This is our FBI per se, as they say. The Panther Party set a new precedent among party members on April 2nd. There was another part I needed to find. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry, I got notes everywhere. Y'all bear with me. But in the Black Panther Party's 1921, the Panther 21, I'm sorry, sets a new precedent among party members. On April 2nd, 1969, 21 leading Black Panther members in New York were arrested and accused of charges related to terrorist activity. The men faced up to 360 years in prison and extortionate bail amounts. Community members worked together to raise money for legal fees. Old footage in this documentary by Jane Fonda showed Jane Fonda hosting a fundraiser for the Black Panthers. After a 13-month trial and a 3-hour-long jury deliberation, the men were eventually acquitted. 21 Black Panthers arrested in New York in 1969, April 1969, accused of terrorist acts, facing 360 years in prison. Come on. Bobby Seale, one of the founders. Black Panther co-founder Bobby Seale was arrested in Chicago in September 1969 on charges for conspiracy to riot, and was later also tried on murder charges of a Panther member who was suspected to be an FBI informant. This is crazy. During his trial, Bobby Seale demanded to represent himself and insisted on declaring his rights in court. In response, the judge ordered for a gag to be tied around his mouth and that he be chained to a chair. So Mr. Seals, I'm gonna call him Mr. Seals, who wanted to defend himself in court, the judge had him gagged and tied to a chair because he didn't agree with him and what he had to say. During his days in court, protests erupted, demanding the court to stop the trial. It was during this time when Fred Hampton, new member, grew prominence of it for his well-admired leadership and empowering public speeches during protests. You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail the revolution. You can jail the revolutionary, but you can't jail the revolution. This is what he said about Bobby Seals when he was being incarcerated and being on trial. Hampton was a voice of racial unity, and he helped to build a broader Black Panther base in Chicago. He even expanded his coalition to include both Hispanic and white activists who shared the same or a similar mission. Now, this is when Bobby Seals was arrested and going to jail. But here's what happened to Fred Hampton. On December, now mind you, this was in April of 1969 when Bobby Seals was on trial. Oh, September, I'm sorry. In September of 1969. In December 1969, police raided the home of Fred Hampton and fired somewhere between 82 to 99 shots, which left both Hampton and Mark Clark, a party leader from Peoria, dead. They killed him. Police claimed the decision to open fire was justified, but Black Panther Party members adamantly believe Hampton was a target and that the shooting was set up by the FBI. A federal investigation conducted after the shooting found that only one shot was fired by the Black Panther Party in that building where Fred Hampton was killed. He fired one shot. Someone in the Black Panther Party fired one shot. However, the FBI who raided this the location, his home, shot between 82 to 99 times. Breonna Taylor? Anyone? Breonna Taylor? See how these things come around? You know, we sit and we look at our history and we hear about our history. And I know I've given you a lot of information today about the Black Panther movement, Black Panther Party, and different things like that. But I bring this up for a reason. And now I'm going to get into something because you heard everything I've said about the Black Panther Party, how the FBI with J. Edgar Hoover and Richard Nixon and all this, they were trying to, dismember or get rid of the Black Panther Party movement because they didn't like it. They didn't agree with it. They didn't like what they were doing. They didn't like the fact that they were empowering their people for justice. They didn't like the things they were doing with the 10-point plan. Just put it simply, they didn't like the fact that an African-American Black organization was trying to take control of their community and uplift it. Let's just be honest. But here's something before we transition to my next topic. Here's something that I think everybody needs to hear about. So the Black Panther Party was in existence from 1966 to 1982. At the peak in 1969, the Black Panther Party only had 5,000 members. Let me say that again. From the years of 1966 to 1982, in 1969, in the peak of the Black Panther Party, they only had membership of 5,000 members. However, they had between 34 and 40 local chapters around the United States of America. 5,000 members. That's all the Black Panther Party had at that time. Now, let me give you a comparison. And some people won't like this comparison, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, because this is something that I think people really need to see in the big light. The Ku Klux Klan. There were 3 different clans in this United States of America. 3. December 24th, 1865 is when the first Ku Klux Klan member started an organization. December 24th, 1865. OT, never in the story. Yes, sir. Never in the story. You're going to like these numbers, though. December 24th, 1865, first variation of the Ku Klux Klan was created. And they lasted from 1865 to 1871. Founded in Pulaski, Tennessee. 1915 to 1944 was the second variation of the Ku Klux Klan. The second variation, and it was founded in Stone Mountain, Georgia. The third variation of the Ku Klux Klan is from 1946 to present. And they're individual groups, individually run all throughout the United States. Now, let me give you the numbers of people that have been or are affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan. Good morning, Lynn Sewell. Good morning. Appreciate the support. In the first Klan from 1865 to 1871, the number of members is unknown. But think about what was going on between 1865 to 1871. But the numbers are unknown. In the second variation of the Klan from 1915 to 1944, you had between 3 million to 6 million members. Let me say that number again for you so you really get what I'm trying to get across to you. In the second variation of the Klan from the years of 1915 to 1944, there were between 3 million to 6 million members, practicing members of the Ku Klux Klan. And in the third variation of the Ku Klux Klan from 1946 to present is only 5,000 to 8,000. So from 1946 to the present, there's only been membership of between 5,000 to 8,000. But the Black Panther Party in its existence had a total of 5,000 members. And the FBI and the President of the United States and the forces that be decided that they were a terrorist threat to this country. I got silent because I want that to marinate in your mind for a minute of how ignorant and how unjust that sounds to me as a black man, and it should sound unjust to you no matter who you are. To know that the number of people in this Black Panthers movement, Black Panther Party, were only a total of 5,000 in their existence for the amount of time that they were in existence. And the United States of America chose to make them a national terrorist organization, a threat to society, because they were fighting for their rights. But then you hear and you go back in history and you find out about the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK for short, to know that they've been around since 1865 and never have been identified as a national terrorist threat, have had a membership of up to between 3 million to 6 million during the second variation of the Ku Klux Klan. And then when we get up to today and we look at today in today's society and we ask the question, why is it such an issue for us to have a Black Lives Matter movement when we're marching and preaching and trying to get justice for all our people? But then when you see these numbers about the Ku Klux Klan, it goes back to what I said Paul Mooney say, you have the complexion for the protection. But we should not be upset about these things when we see them. We should not be mad when we see the president of the United States cause an insurrection on the Capitol and everybody is going to walk free, in my opinion, slap on the hand here, slap on the hand there. But the one who started the process will walk free. But because the Black Panther Party had a different complexion and no protection, this is what it comes out to be. When we talk about our Black history, our African-American history, our history in this United States of America, we need to get down to the basics of what has been done to us outside of slavery. We harp on the slavery aspect of what happened to us during slavery, but it still goes on today. You don't have to be in chains. You don't have to be in bondage to be enslaved. But when you try to start an organization to uplift your people, they call you anti-white. When you try to start an organization to uplift your people and the way you go about it, or you decide to take a stance when you go down on a knee like Colin Kaepernick, excuse me, you're blackballed. But if you say Ku Klux Klan or white nationalism or anything like that, it's not as bad as it may seem. Which leads me to my next transition. The enemy within. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has called on the services to conduct a 60-day stand down on the issue of extremism in the military, prompted by the January 6th attack on the Capitol and subsequent reports of both active duty and former service members attending a rally calling to overturn the 2020 election and the riot that ensued. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, first ever African-American Secretary of Defense for this country, called for the services to conduct a 60-day stand down on the issue of extremism in the military, prompted by what happened on January 6th when they found out how many people, former and current serving members of the military, were involved in the insurrection. And then it says the Defense Department does not centrally track troops who have been investigated for domestic terrorism or extremist sentiment, and neither do the services, making it difficult to get a read on how prevalent the problem is. The Defense Department does not essentially track people who are involved in these organizations that are called extremists, white nationalists, white supremacists. They don't track this. But we're going to do a 60-day, watch what I'm saying now, a 60-day shutdown to find out what's going on within the ranks with this extremism per se. On January 28th, the FBI on January 28th, the FBI opened 143 investigations into troops and veterans in 2020. 68 of those for domestic extremism. Now, let me give you some numbers. This was a poll that was done by, they asked service members, what do you feel is the biggest threat to national security at this time? Let me give you some numbers. China, 86.5%. Cyber terrorism, 85.9%. Iran, 57.7%. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and foreign terrorists, 48.1%. White nationalists, 47.6%. Domestic Islamic terrorists, 45.8%. North Korea, 40.3%. Immigration, 21.4%. Afghanistan, 10.3%. White nationalists, 47.6%. In the United States of America, by interviewing military members, say that threat of white nationalists rates about 47.6%, behind China, cyber terrorism, Iran, and ISIS. They're moving up the charts. Here's some old numbers for you. Racism in the ranks. This was conducted in 2020. They polled 1,018 active duty troops conducted by the Military Times in partnership with Syracuse University Institute for Veterans and Military Families between July 27th and August 10th of 2020. Racism in the ranks. Have you personally witnessed examples of white nationalism or racism within the ranks of the military? 68.7% of all the troops said no. 31.3% said yes. For minorities, 57.2% said yes, 42.8% said no. Have you personally witnessed examples of white nationalism or racism within the ranks of the military? Anything with these numbers that falls above 50% is a problem. It's a problem. And then you asked, as a whole, it was 68% said no. You have to take into account the dichotomy of what the military is. What the military is. Poll respondents reported examples such as peers displaying white nationalist tattoos, making racist statements, or participating in online forums linked to hate groups. This is a statement from a person that took the poll. I've seen multiple soldiers online disrespecting the Black Lives Matter movement and the plight of people of color in our nation. I have seen leadership on multiple occasions say that the protesters should be shot, that our president should be more violent when dealing with the protesters. Others said they heard frequent use of racial slurs from white peers, both in conversations where they thought minorities weren't present, or in loud public comments which seemed to invite confrontation. Peers have been very vocal on how they believe that George Floyd deserved his death and are quick to point out black on black crime. They complain that every ethnicity has an observance month, but have nothing to celebrate. White pride. I transitioned to the military part, the enemy within, to show you and give you an idea on where we're at in the United States of America at this time. When you have a brand new and the first ever African American to hold the position of the Secretary of Defense for this nation. And he has to go in there within the first week and call for a 60-day shutdown to do investigations to dig into the percentages and what's going on within the ranks of white nationalism, how it's affecting the troops because of what happened on January 6th. This is not something that just happened overnight. This is not something that just happened under his watch. This is not something that just happened under former President Trump's watch. This has been fully embedded in organizations for years and years and years. If you can have the FBI do what they did to the Black Panther Party, you can have people in the military and any other organization, the police departments, hell, in the job you work at, infiltrated to do things to those of color just because of their mindset, because of their thinking, because of their beliefs, because of their values and their biases. And we talk about these things during Black History Month, at least I do, because I want people to understand that during Black History Month, everything that's going on around us does not stop because we're celebrating Black history. During Black History Month is a time that we need to recognize and talk about and discuss. Don't get me wrong. I get the part about talking about what we've invented, how we've come through, what we've done to build this country. But we also need to get down to the grassroots of why we haven't become who we want to become in this country, with boundaries and restrictions. Because there are powers that are invested in certain people in places of power that continue to put the foot on the neck of those that just want justice for all. And as I said in the beginning, it's not about being anti-white, because I'm pro-Black. And you should feel the same way. If you're pro-white, that don't make you anti-Black unless you choose to express it in that manner. When you choose to express it in the manner of white supremacy, white nationalism, the Ku Klux Klan, any of those type of organizations that you do that are truly against anything and everything about the African-American community, then you're part of the problem. But what we do and what society does and what society has done and the government has done is they go after the organizations that are looking for the justice for a community rather than going for the big aspect of the ones that are infiltrating these organizations to continue doing the things that have been done for years and years and years. And when we talk about the military, it's one of those things that I know when I served, it was one of those things where it was unspoken because it was not said out loud. Things weren't done. Did we see it? Yes, we've seen it. But in the capacity of what it is today, I don't think so, unless we were just blind to it. Unless people just knew how to blend in. Those are things that we don't pay attention to. Those are the things that are going on. This is your Black History Month for today. Your Black History lesson. The Black Panther Party, how the Black Panther Party was overtaken and disrupted from what work they were trying to do in the community. But you still have the Ku Klux Klan, the white nationalists, white supremacists, all these other organizations that are free to roam and do what they want to do. Militia groups up in wherever they're at, wearing the camouflage and shooting targets in the backfields and everything like that, storming capitals in cities and the nation's capital, and nothing is being done to disorganize them. Why? Mind, Body, and Soul. Mind, Body, and Soul segment. We're on a one day at a time this year, 2021, and working on self-help. And the Mind, Body, and Soul segment today revolves around everything we've talked about today. But it's something that I think we all need to have in our dichotomy and in our brain and in our mental health and understanding exactly why we do what we do. And here it goes. Don't judge my choices when you don't understand my reasons. Don't judge my choices when you don't understand my reasons. As I mentioned during the show, when we talk about the organizations that are uplifting our people, and when we do things in our communities as a people to try to uplift each other, we go back to where I talked about, us tearing each other down rather than building each other up and those type things. And it comes into play where you have to understand when people judge what you do, or you stand from the outside looking in and you only see a certain aspect of me and what I do. You judge the choices that I make, not because you know my journey, not because you know my trials and tribulations, not because you know exactly what my motives are, but because you don't understand my reasons behind what I do. When you talk about the Black Panther Party, you talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, when you talk about Colin Kaepernick, when you talk about Martin Luther King Jr., when you talk about Malcolm X, when you talk about all the people who were assassinated either by a bullet or in the media for what they're trying to do, without understanding what the reasons are behind why they're doing what they're doing, you only have to look at one thing. In most cases that we talk about with this, in most cases when we talk about this, and I'll go back to what Paul Mooney said, when you don't have the complexion for the protection, this is the things that go on where people don't understand your judging your actions because they don't know your reasons. Being pro-black should not be a death sentence to you as far as having white friends. But because you talk a certain way, because you handle things a certain way, because you want to uplift your people, for people to put a label on you that you're anti-white because you're pro-black is wrong. But sometimes people need to step back and ask the question of, why are you so pro-black? Why do you stand for your people? Why do you want justice for your people? Why are you so enthused to make sure your people have equal justice no matter what, especially if it's not affecting you? But if it's affecting one of us, it's affecting all of us. But we get caught up in, when we drive in our neighborhoods and we shut the garage door and we close the door, we close the world out, that it's not my problem anymore. I ask myself many times, where I sit today, how I feel today. If you were to put me back in the time when Martin Luther King Jr. was marching, or when Malcolm X was speaking, or when the Black Panther Party was doing their thing and making their movement and trying to uplift the community, I often ask myself, what side of the fence would you have been standing on? What would your purpose have been? What were the choices that you would have made when you seen injustice being done? And it causes me to look at where I'm at now, where I've been, what I've seen, and what I continue to hear. And then I reckon back to that and understand that the trials and tribulations they went through with the beatings and the police dogs and the water hoses and the death threats and all the different things you can think of that were done to these people who were just trying to get justice for all. And I ask myself, what would I have done? And I come up with a conclusion that I don't know. And the reason I say I don't know is because I can't say what I would have done because I'm not there. But what I can tell you is this: knowing what I know now, to be put in that position back then, I would have fought my ass off. Because nothing from that day to this day has truly changed. The only thing that has changed is time and methods. Time and methods are the only two things that have changed at this time between then and now. I don't say that lightly, But I say it because when we look at it and we talk about Black history, when we talk about our movements and then we talk about what we've been doing as far as asking for justice and trying to get what's equally ours. And as Martin Luther King says so eloquently, the United States of America wrote a check and it has insufficient funds as far as giving us what we're supposed to have. I ask myself numerous times, why? Why haven't things changed? Why can't we get to the point where we're all on an equal level playing field? And the one example that opened my eyes up to it was just one snippet of what I watched about this impeachment the other day. When I seen the videos that we haven't seen before, excuse me, and I seen the videos of those people that were trying to take over the Capitol, and I seen their total disregard for any consequences for what they were doing, it made me realize at that point, no matter what I do in life, no matter where I stand or what I stand on, right, wrong, or indifferent by anybody else's view, I will never have the complexion for the protection. It's just that simple. We got work, y'all. We got work. Let's wrap this thing up. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Sorry, I apologize again. Last week we had technical difficulties, but we're going to continue to give you a show that you've been tuning in to listen to. I appreciate everybody tuning in. And look, we're in Black History Month. You know, go back, do some research. There's a movie coming out. I think it starts today or this weekend or something, called Judas and the Messiah. It deals with the Black Party movement, Black Panther Party, and the infiltration by the FBI with a member that they put in there that caused the chaos and everything like that. I think it's something that everyone should sit down and watch because it give you an understanding about what I've talked about with J. Edgar Hoover and how they went about, you know, dismantling the Black Panther Party from within. And the way they did it was infiltrating someone in who did not have the best interest at hand for the Black Panther Party and what their movement was. I appreciate it. Hey, keep tuning in, keep doing your thing. And I tell you this, man, Black History Month is a month that we go back, we identify, we look at things, we post things and everything like that. But it shouldn't stop on the 28th or the 29th, whichever year it is. We should always reckon back to our history. We should always identify our history, and we should always be proud to speak about our history. Not all the negative, but you need to identify and you need to speak on the negative just as well as you do the positive, because everything about our history is not good and everything about our history is not bad, but you got to give the full context of our history in order to appreciate our history. That's just a little snippet from me. I'll be back again next week. Make sure you tune in. Next week, I'm going to touch on a little bit of that 1619 project because it's interesting to me, the uproar about it. The uproar and you know, how these things ain't right and the facts aren't right and they made this up and they made this up. But my thing is history. When you talk about history, everything that's written in history does not mean it's true. That's just me. It does not mean it's true. Whoever's writing the history, whoever is writing that part of history has a hand in how that history is written and how it is portrayed. Just remember that, and we'll get into that next week. I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody tuning in. OT, I'll hit you up later on, bro. Appreciate you. As I always say before I sign off, man, I'm so excited. I'm glad we got this show over. But Black Panther Party, read up, read up, read up. Love yourself. Love one another. Keep your head up. And most definitely, keep your faith in God. And always remember, just because you may be pro-Black does not make you anti-white. I love y'all. Peace.